The banks received our money in the bailout, but haven't reinvested it in the country. And now there's a Conservative government which is soft on the banks, hard on the poor, and threatening to growth. So it's a serious situation. And we have to say that at the time of the last election, ideological uncertainty, administrative methods, and a recession that threatened depression did for us. Those three historic weaknesses came back. But it was also deeper. We lost the trust of people, and in a democracy that's a very big thing. 180 seats we lost since 1997, 4.5 million votes. 12 Labour MPs in the 3 southern regions of England out of 210 MPs. This is an issue we have to address honestly. How did it happen? I agreed completely with Gordon Brown when he became Prime Minister in 2007 that we needed renewal. I supported and voted for him. I agreed that we needed greater moral seriousness and less indifference to the excesses of a celebrity-drenched culture. I agreed with him when he said that we needed greater coherence as a government, particularly in relation to child poverty and inequality. I agreed with him on the importance of party reform and a meaningful internationalism that would be part of a unified government strategy. I agreed we needed a civic morality to champion civility when confronting a widespread indifference to others. But it didn't happen. It wasn't just more of the same. Far from correcting the failings, tactics, spin, high-handedness, they intensified, and we lost many of our strengths. Optimism born of clear strategy, bold plans for change and reform, a compelling articulation of aspiration and hope. So in the election, we fought more on fear of the Conservatives than hope for us. We didn't succeed in renewing ourselves in office, and the roots of that failure were deep, not recent. About procedure and openness, or lack of it, as much as policy. And now, the stakes are very high indeed. So here is the task that we face. It's a policy task and a political task. We have to first reconceive our notion of fairness. You must have done the canvassing in the same way that I did. In our concern with meeting people's needs, we seem to sever welfare from desert or reward. And this led people to think their taxes were being wasted, that they were being used. When we said fairness, people thought we meant anything but, or they thought we meant someone else. What emerged as a tribute to solidarity, the welfare state, turned into a source of division. Many of the hard-working families we wish to appeal to didn't view us as their party. The lowest turnout in the election, less than 40%, was among young women, for whom we did the most, in terms of childcare, Sure Start, tax credits, you name it. We achieved great things, but we didn't seem to bring people with us. Second, we need to build our own story of the economy that embraces neither the masochism of George Osborne nor a denial of economic reality. The Conservatives will never challenge the power of under-regulated markets. They don't accept its role in the crash and in the increase in our deficit. They're assaulting the motors of growth outside the city, from loans to Sheffield Forgemasters to the regional development agencies. We must engage head-on with the coalition if we are to win. And we'll need to think how to create value and how to create wealth, how to engage the innovators and the idle and those who have more to give. We need to rebalance our economy so there is growth and innovation, not just in financial products, but in the rest of the economy. Third, we need to reclaim and reenact our commitments to community. Default statism turns citizens into consumers and makes government a giant problem solver, which only increases the sense of technical managerialism. This meant that our response to that idea of the big society, that was Cameron's big idea, the big society. But we didn't engage its weaknesses, its lack of political economy, its refusal to allow the society to challenge the market as well as challenge the state. This undermined our socialism. A life fit for a human being is about more than money and benefits. It's about responsibility, love, loyalty, friendship, action, victory. Values that used to be engraved on the Labour heart, but which we've carried too lightly of late. We need a creed that could combine solidarity with responsibility, freedom and equality. And without community ethics lived and upheld, it's difficult to generate the civility that we value. I take the big society idea very, very seriously. Not because I think it's right, but because I think it's dangerous. It's a piece of doublethink. A small society maintained by voluntarism and charity. I want a bigger society, based on reciprocity, not just kindness. And I intend to make that a Labour issue. We lost crime as a Labour issue because it wasn't talked about enough, but also because we didn't resolve the false choice of being punitive and managerial or ineffective and soft-headed. I believe in a bigger society based on relationships forged in justice, of holding the people holding the market, the state, and each other to account as proper partners in society. We have fourthly, don't worry, there are only 5. We have fourthly to make our internationalism work for people in this country. Our embrace of the opportunities of globalization neglected its unequal impact across the country. It meant that we seemed not to understand concerns about immigration and address them. We didn't appreciate, or seem to, the sense of confusion, loss, powerlessness that people felt about the loneliness, insecurity, the sheer difficulty of holding family together. Remember that phrase, we asked too little and promised too much, and the result was uncomprehending anger among too many of our own voters. I am critical of the inequalities, unsustainabilities, instabilities of globalization, but like Keir Hardie, I'm an internationalist. That means solidarity with people around the world, including organised labour in places where workers are being exploited and unions are illegal. That means China too, and we should support the demand of striking workers there to win recognition as democratic trade unions. We have finally to make democracy our ally again, outside the party, but also inside the party. The lack of democratic discussion, the hollowing out of the party, our administrative and managerial methods meant that we were seen as a fearsome but not attractive political machine. And that was confirmed for many by the McBride emails and the ugliness of that kind of politics. We didn't come to represent a new dawn, but another government whose time seemed to have passed. But in a way it was worse in that concern with spin and media management led to where I began, a sense that we didn't have a creed that we would live for, a strong idea of a good society and a life fit for a human being for all our citizens. We need to discuss how we renew the party and build relationships with local institutions and pursue campaigns, from the living wage and local banking to civic amenities and community responsibility. We also need to give far more thought to how to support and nurture relationships between people and the energy that generates. We need to think about how to redistribute power as well as responsibility to people, so that the pursuit of the good society is their story, their cause, their journey, as well as ours. And so, to conclude, the wheel has come full circle. In some ways, we're back to Hardie's time, where the Conservative and Liberal parties wish to exclude Labour from power. We shouldn't weep for the Liberals, and neither should we pander to them. We must offer a home to all those who recognise that there is a long struggle ahead to protect the working people of our country from bearing the brunt of the grief that was generated not by them, but by markets beyond their control and beyond our control. We should be humble, determined, open, and engaged. And we have a lot to learn. There are big conversations and big discussions ahead. The task for Labour is to renew the covenant of trust that Hardie forged and become once more the reasonable hope of a reasonable people. As Labour leader, I will engage with a fundamental change in the way we do politics. I want an elected party chair, not appointed by the leader, because the task of leading the opposition to a coalition government in Westminster and renewing the party and its organisation is not the job of one man alone. I welcome the culture of collegiality and mutuality that this will bring. These are our values, and we should live by them. I will engage with the debate across the party on the challenges that face us. This leadership election is the beginning of the conversation, not the end. And we will go deeper still and renew our mission to be the hope of a common life between what was previously divided, to find common purpose where there is fear and anger, to remind people that the greatest hope we have is each other. Thank you very much indeed.